the latest edition of Wildcats 360. It's a special week here in Providence. We've got homecoming week and family weekend, joined by head coach Jamie Benton. He's inducting Lamonte Thomas and his 2010-2011 team will be going into the Hall of Fame as well. Coach, thanks for joining us. What are your thoughts when you think about that 2011 team?
Well, one thing was it was a wonderful, wonderful ride. We had a great group of guys. Obviously, Lamont led the country in scoring. But when I think about that team, I think about the development of the seniors and the leadership that we had on that team. We had a group of men, though it may have appeared that Lamont was the leader, which is always a perception when you look at teams. But, our captain, Lou Ferreris, James Folk, and Calvin Jones really brought us the leadership that we needed to succeed during the course of that season, especially with Albertus being the powerhouse. And if I'm not mistaken, St. Joe's had the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you guys went on the road and had to beat St. Joe's at St. Joe's for the GX championship. When did you get a feeling that this could be a special team that could win the conference?
Well, we came together as a group probably during midway through that season. I think we always play a challenging non-conference schedule. But I really thought that we really had a chance. One is we beat Albertus at Albertus in December. So we knew that we could compete with those guys. Even though we won that game, they hands down were better than us. But we finished that game being down 30. So what we went back to the drawing board was really start to focus on how did we have an opportunity to come back and win that game. So we started to strengthen our defense. We already had the leading scorer in the country. So if we could become better defensively, then we felt though we had a chance against anybody. I think we split with St. Joe's as well that year. But there was a moment during the course of that season when we really knew. We felt, though, Luis Ferreris was the best defensive player on any level in college basketball. We were in a timeout, and Lamont who was our worst defensive player. But as a junior, he believed he had become the best defensive player. Him and Lewis are arguing during this timeout. Us coaches stepped back and allowed them. And I politely asked Lewis, let's see what he has. Because I really felt, though, Lamont believed that. I said, because now if we have the leading scorer and a guy who can really, and he never paid attention to detail with defense, and once he put his defensive character together, we just blossomed as a team defensively. And I think that's where we came up and surprised a lot of teams was with our defense. The kid was going to score. So it didn't matter if we lost. We knew that. Mm-hmm. I think we lost to St. Joe's here. Am I correct? I'm over here. He's nice.
Yeah, I think you lost here, yes.
Yeah. I think we lost to St. Joe's here, but I think we beat them there. And then when we went there, I mean, they were confident. It was a great game. I think we were down 1-2. They hit a half-court buzzer shot, and we didn't waver. We came out that second half, and we were nose on the ball defensively, and we saw those guys quit within the first 4 minutes of that second half. Hands down.
That team was a juggernaut in the playoffs, averaging 18 points a game. You needed the offense when you go into the NCAA tournament. One of the reasons why this team is being inducted is because it's the first team in JWU history to win an NCAA tournament game. Talk about that ramp up. It's wild. It's overtime. What are the emotions going through that game?
Well, I think one of the things was being down 17 or 14 points with a minute 17 or minute 12. Everybody has their own story, how many points we were down. But we clearly were down double figures. And we ran a couple plays, and I think we got 2 or 3 steals in a row. Lamont pulls up and hits a couple threes. I think it was 3 to get us back into that game. And somehow, some way, they missed their foul shots because to extend the game, you have to foul. And I remember us extending that game and those guys missing free throws. We come down, we're still down 2 and Lamont decides that he wants to pass of all times during the course of the year. And Calvin Jones, I went and took a seat in the last seat on the bench, and right in front of me is Cal's tailbone in my face, and He squares his feet up. I look, it seemed in slow motion to me, but everything that we worked on with body control and shooting, he knocks down a big shot. If you go back and look at it, we won the game in regulation. It was a 3, and it was good, but we come out in the second half and we come out in the overtime and we just put together a great 5 minutes, and all you have to do with 0-0, you got to win the 5 minutes. And I think that most teams that come out and win the first minute or two, you're probably going to win that overtime. So if I remember anything from that Ramapo tournament, was I remember going to practice. We're in the hallway, and Ramapo comes out of practice, and they're looking for Lamont. And I'm standing there as a coach, and they're looking at the wrong guy. There's a couple guys from Ramapo say, "Hey, that's him. Is that him?" And I say, if they do not know who he is at this point, we got a shot, because they were the 1 seed, and they were ranked in the country. And I remember before the game, they were in layup line, and one of the may have been a grad assistant. They're still pointing at the wrong guy. Lamont, as you know, comes out in the first 8 minutes of that game, and he has 17 points in the first 8 minutes. So we just believed we had a chance. And before they figured out who he was, I think he may have had 25. 'Cause I think he ended up with 45, 47 points. It was something. It was something amazing. It was a great atmosphere. But to be the first team to win an NCAA, we're not thinking like that in those terms at that time. But to come back and find out we were the first team, that's something I think those guys will remember, for the rest of their lives.
Certainly. Let's talk a little bit about Lamont. It's hard to believe Ramapo doesn't know who the leading scorer in the country is going in. What was it like to coach someone like that who could score 40 on any given night?
It was an amazing, but I think I have to pay respect to the team as well, because all the things that we worked on, we knew Lamont at this point could score. But starting that year off, I'm gonna be honest with you, none of us, the coaching staff, anyone in the conference, no one thought that he would be the leading scorer in the country. I knew Lamont as a young kid. I actually sent him home from camp a couple times for his attitude. But there's no way starting that year off that we thought we had the leading scorer in the country. We didn't think he would be in the top 10. We weren't thinking on those terms. We knew we had a great group. And so those guys kind of held him accountable and kind of was, okay, you're going to score, but you're going to play defense. You're going to touch the lines. You're going to, and then one thing led to another. So if you kind of know my coaching style, when he was averaging 20, I would give him a look and say, you got to give me more. And it got to a point where he thought I was crazy. When it got to 25, that ain't good enough. You're 5 points away from 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see him talk to Coach Delashio every now and then, and just kind of, this guy's driving me crazy. And then I just kept pushing the envelope. But one thing that I noticed, that every time I pushed him to reach higher, he kept reaching. So his reach kept extending. So I said, well, what is the cutoff? And then so if you thought I challenged him that year, I thought I was even tougher and worse as a coach his senior year, because I thought a lot of people was coming for him. We lost some seniors in that his junior year, and he just continued to push the envelope. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a numbers guy like the rest of these guys are, but I think he averaged 34 points.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. So I guess so now I would say I went from being crazy to teasing him to saying, hey, Lamont, you love me now, So I think that is the case. So I know there was a lot of days where and I think that's what coaching is. You got to push guys to reach or to find their limits, but you keep pushing. But I'm not convinced that when we recruited him, that he would average 20 points.
Right.
We thought he was going to be a really good assist guy, and that's the honest truth. So to credit to him and his work ethic, to lead the country, I mean, that's and to be in the Hall of Fame is amazing.
Yeah, it's certainly a remarkable career. That senior year is one of the top 10 all-time, D3 history. Also, his career numbers are top 10 all-time as well. So, again, Lamonte Thomas in the 2010-2011 men's basketball team going into the Hall of Fame Saturday night. It's kind of the hallmark of this weekend. The ceremony starts at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. Also going in, Kathy Bravo for women's basketball, Rich McKay for baseball, wrestler Steve Martell, men's ice hockey player Dominic Recchia, and as we mentioned, Lamont in the 2010-11 team. Big weekend here at the Harborside campus. Friday night, you've got women's volleyball playing Roger Williams at 6 p.m. Men's soccer will play Riviera at 7 p.m. Senior night for the men's soccer team. Then on Saturday, doubleheader for women's volleyball. They'll take on Riviera at 10:30 and Coast Guard at 1 p.m. Their senior night. Field hockey plays St. Joe's Maine at 12 p.m., senior day for them as well. Also, women's soccer takes on the Monks at 2:30 p.m., also their senior day, plus senior day for women's tennis when they take on Regis at 5:15 at center court. Middle of the day, we got the alumni tailgate, looking to see a lot of the men's basketball players coming back, 1:30 to 4 p.m. at the turf field. So, again, great weekend here at Harborside campus. If you can't join us, go to our website, providence.jwathletics.com. You can get video links, live links, get all the stats and updates. So, Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.